टोपली भेटवून तांचो योगदान करचो. धन्यवाद सर. गोंय विद्यापीठाचे कुलसचिव प्रोफेसर सुंदर धुरी हांचे लागीं मागता की अतिथी वक्ता मानवशास्त्रज्ञ आदरणीय प्रोफेसर सोमेंद्र मोहन पटनायक हांकां फळांची टोपली भेटवून येवपाचे. डॉक्टर प्रकाश पर्रीकर हांचे लागीं मागता की तांणी सुवाळ्याचे अध्यक्ष आदरणीय प्रोफेसर हरिलाल बी मेनन हांकां झाडाचो रोपो दिवन तांकां येवकारचे. तशेंच डॉक्टर अरविंद हळदणकर हांचे लागीं मागता की तांणी मानाचे सोयरे प्रोफेसर सुंदर धुरी हांकां झाडाचो रोपो दिवन तांकां येवकारचे. देव बरें करूं. गिन्यान प्रगती आणि सकारात्मकतायेची सुरवात सदांच उजवाडान जाता. हांव माचेर आशिल्ल्या सगळ्या मानेस्तांक आदरपूर्वक विनवणी करता की तांणी पणटी पेटोवन आनी डॉक्टर काशीनाथ जल्मी हांच्या फोटवाक फुलां ओंपोवन ह्या ज्ञान यज्ञाचे रितसर उक्तावण करचें. देव बरें करूं. फुडल्या सुवातेर ह्या येवजणे फाटली महत्वाकांक्षी फाटभूंय सांगपाक आनी मानेस्तांची वळख करून दिवपा खातीर हांव कार्यक्रमाचे समन्वयक डॉक्टर अरविंद हळदणकर हांकां आमंत्रीत करता.
Namaskar and good morning to all of you, esteemed dignitaries on the dais, the deans, vice deans, invited guests, faculty colleagues, members of the Dr. Zalmi family, the media team, and dear students. Indeed, given a opportunity to speak on the objective and the introduction and welcome of the chief guest. Well, most of the points have been covered by the director, Dr. Parriyakar, and I won't be going much deeper into it. Nevertheless, let me highlight a few things which needs to be told about the tribal society in general, the KASHINATH Zalmi chair, and then the introduction of the guest. I'm happy that the younger generations are much inclined today in taking up tribal studies, tribal research. As we all know, Goa's tribal society, comprising primarily the Gaudas, Kurbis and Velips, constitute an important dimension of the state's socio-cultural diversity and heritage. As per the 2011 census, the scheduled tribes of Goa account for 10.24% of the Goa's total population. Recognized as the scheduled tribes in the year 2003, these communities possess very distinctive historical trajectories, cultural identities, livelihood practices, and very unique social institutions. Like the pan-Indian societies across India, the Goa's tribal communities are continuously negotiating the complex interface of identity, development, cultural continuity, and adaptation to change. Contemporary transformations have significantly reshaped and altered the very tribal social life, challenging the static and stereotypical understandings of tribal communities. This calls for greater recognition and the need to study and document the indigenous knowledge, sustainable livelihood practices, the role of tribal women, cultural institutions, and the emerging forms of political and social assertion. It is in this context that the proposed Dr. KASHINATH JALMI Chair in Konkani Tribal Studies at the Goa University assumes particularly a great academic and societal significance. The Dr. KASHINATH JALMI Chair in Konkani Tribal Studies, as reiterated by Dr. Prakash Pariyakar, is proposed by the Goa University, which will institutionalize sustained academic engagement with the history, culture, identity, knowledge systems, and contemporary aspirations of Goa's tribal communities. The chair will serve as an interdisciplinary platform for research, teaching, documentation, and scholarly dialogue on tribal society. It will promote lectures, seminars, conferences, workshops, field-based research, documentation initiatives, and academic publications. Special emphasis will be placed on tribal histories, oral traditions, cultural practices, and ecological relationships, livelihood and lived experiences of the tribal communities. In carrying forward Dr. KASHINATH JALMI's legacy, the chair will promote a participatory, culturally grounded, and contemporary approach to inclusive development and policy. And hence, in keeping with this novel academic initiative, the university thoughtfully planned to invite Professor Somendra Patnaik from the University of Delhi, whose distinguished scholarship, extensive institutional experience, and expertise in tribal studies closely align with the objectives and intellectual mandate of the proposed chair. It is a privilege to welcome and introduce Professor Somendra Mohan Patnaik, an eminent anthropologist and distinguished academician with extensive contributions to anthropology, tribal studies, and public policy. He is professor, formerly the head of the Department of Anthropology and director of the Center for Tribal Studies at the University of Delhi. He has also served as the Vice Chancellor of Utkal University and had several senior academic, administrative, and policy advisory positions. Professor Patnaik has played a significant leadership role in national and international anthropology, including the President of the Indian Anthropological Association and Senior Vice President of the International Union of Anthropological and Ethnological Sciences. His scholarly expertise encompasses areas of globalization, development, indigenous knowledge systems, tribal studies, ethnography, tourism, displacement, and rehabilitation. His research has extensively engaged with the complex relationship among communities, indigenous knowledge, climate change, governance, development processes, public policy, and cultural change. A prolific scholar, he has published widely in leading national and international journals and academic volumes, including publications in Routledge and Springer Nature. He has supervised 16 PhDs and 46 MPhil scholars and has held visiting academic positions at several leading universities in India and the United States. His distinguished academic and public policy career makes him particularly well placed to deliver the inaugural lecture and offer valuable intellectual perspectives on contemporary tribal and anthropological scholarship. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let us join together to welcome Professor Somendra Patnaik to the esteemed gathering. Thank you.
देव बरे करू सर. डॉक्टर जल्मी घराण्यांतली सदस्य आमच्या मुखार आसात. तांची भयण मॅडम स्नेहा गांवकर हांच्या लागीं मागता तांचो भोवमान आमी ह्या समयाचेर करता. तांच्या लागीं मागता की तांणी माचयेर येवचें. मनाचे कला आणि संस्कृती मंत्री भौमानेस डॉक्टर रमेश तवडकर हांच्या लागीं मागता की तांणी तांकां यादस्तीक भेटून तांचो भोवमान करचो. धन्यवाद. मान्यवरा लागीं मागता की तांणी आपली सुवात घेवची. मॅडम स्नेहा गांवकर हांच्या लागीं मागता की तांणी आपले विचार हांगा व्यक्त करचे.
Good morning, everyone. Respected dignitaries on the dais, all professionals, lecturers, professors, and students sitting in front of me. I am standing here just to express my gratitude because I am filled with sentiments right now at this moment. So I just wanted to say thank you for all those who are involved in this program. So first of all, my sincere thanks to Goa University and especially the Directorate of Visiting Research Professional Program for taking this initiative and acknowledging the contribution of my brother Dr. KASHINATH JALMI and honoring by choosing his or nominating his name for this prestigious chair. So a big thank you to Goa University for this initiative. My thanks, a special thanks goes to Dr. Prakash Parekar, who coordinated with me and took the initiative, invited us for this program, for withstanding this such a big proud moment for us. So really I am very much thankful for giving us this opportunity to attend this program and giving such a position, such a chair in this university. Definitely this will be a inspiration for the youngster, I feel so, because only our generation knows about the work of Dr. JALMI, but the future generation should also know his contribution for the tribal community and the work he has done for Goa. So thank you very much. Thank you one and all. Sorry for this. A big thank you to our Honorable Minister Dr. Ramesh Tawardkar, because he is one of the person behind who has given approval, and because of him I think Dr. Prakash told me about this. So a big thank you to Dr. Tawardkar. Sir, it is because of your approval also I can see this program, this initiative today. So thank you so much once again.
खूप खूप देव बरे करू. पुढल्या सुवातेर अब मैं निवेदन करती हूँ हमारे आज के अतिथि वक्ता आदरणीय प्रोफेसर सौमेंद्र मोहन पटनायक जी से कि वे इस अवसर पर अपने बहुमूल्य विचार हमसे साझा करें.
Chief guest of the occasion, Honorable Minister Dr. Ramesh Tawardkar, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Harilal Menon, Registrar Professor Sundar Thuri, Director Professor Prakash Pariyekar, Coordinator Dr. Arvind Haldankar, Madam Gaonkar, and other members of JALMI family, my esteemed colleagues and dear students of Goa University. In this role, I am supposed to highlight what I am going to talk in the next half of this program. I understand that Honorable Minister and Honorable Vice Chancellor are quite busy and we have taken much of their time. I will be very, very brief in my deliberations. First, I express my heartfelt thanks to the Honorable Vice Chancellor and his team for extending this kind invitation to me on the occasion of installation of this prestigious chair in the name of one of the pioneers, Dr. KASHINATH JALMI, mainly in the field of Konkani tribal studies. Now this chair speaks volumes, but also keeps much of the ideas to itself. And you need an incisive observer to understand what is latently said or what is unsaid. Universities stand for societies, and such chairs in the name of pioneers in the field of the negotiation of tribal aspirations are the clear-cut connections between the youth of the nation and the role models. KASHINATH JALMI has been a role model not only for the tribal youth but for the entire state and for the nation. The way he has negotiated the collective aspirations in the field of tribal education and health is unparalleled and worth remembering, and I congratulate the University of Goa and also express my sincere thanks to the government for establishing this chair in rebuilding India's youth energy. The topic which I have chosen is identity, culture and aspirations, reflections on Indian tribes. Because we all know that an understanding of tribal culture, history, identity and aspirations cannot be limited to a particular disciplinary boundary. It has to cross the boundary of a particular discipline and connect history, politics, economics, Indology, psychology, sociology, political science, and geography, literature, many other disciplines. And I have tried to do that. In my talk, I have tried to cross the disciplinary boundary of my own discipline and have gone beyond to understand this particular issue. Now, why did I choose this particular issue of identity, culture, and aspirations? Students of tribal studies have always focused on culture. Tribal culture has occupied a sanctum sanctorum in anthropological analysis, but very rarely we have gone to the question of identity and the question of aspirations, because in the contemporary India, if the tribals are finding any agony, it is primarily because of the space around them are changing, the territory around them are changing, the connectedness with the nature is changing, and that is what our Sanatan values have been, that connectedness to the nature. And when we say that development programs, infrastructure building, urbanizations are affecting the tribal existence, I remember the slogan of Government of India and also most of the intellectuals in IIT, those who are studying the tribal questions, three important words: Asmita, Astitva, and Vikas. And it is through this Asmita, Astitva, and Vikas, I am trying to revisit the question of identity and argue that identity has nothing to do with the culture, but it has something to do with the boundaries of the culture. How there is a sense of relative deprivation the tribals experience when they look at the boundary relations. And this is where my paper will argue and go on to say that how there is a comparative understanding of sense of deprivations, and the tribals of Goa, and especially the Konkani tribal speakers, the Konkani speakers of the tribals beyond the Goa, in Maharashtra, in Gujarat, in Daman and Diu, how they have developed a sense of asmita for themselves, how they should be united around the existential problems to go beyond the contemporary and look into the future. The last point with which I would conclude my speech would be that how Goa situation creates a very good context for comparative understanding of how these community have been promulgated, or this idea of community ownership of resources and community ownership of the aspirations are recognized by the government, and how the people, it has entered into the minds of the people. I was reminded of the idea of communitization in Nagaland, and Nagaland has won a distinct prize from UNESCO on the way of experimenting with this idea of communitization, and Goa is a wonderful state of following its own roots of communities. And in the light of the present scenario, I understand that the Goan tribe had got the scheduled tribe status very late, as late as 2003, to have the presidential accent. And now they are fighting for the political reservation. And I think very soon, the contemporary political wisdom should consider providing the political reservation to the Goan tribe in the assembly and other forum. But only the future can say. And I am very thankful to when I came to know about our honorable minister's sincere effort to push the case of the tribals, or to push the points of view of the tribals across the state, among the youth, in terms of art and culture, and in terms of the indigenous knowledge. I was reminded of Honorable President Draupadi Murmu's statement that integrating tribal knowledge system to Indian knowledge system holds the clue of making India a Vishwaguru. And finally, the last point, that when we stand here in this room to celebrate the beginning of Dr. KASHINATH JALMI's chair in Konkani Tribal Studies, we stand at the juncture of unfolding of National Education Policy 2020 and unfolding or reaching of 2047, when the India completes 100 years of its independence, the Viksit Bharat. And at this juncture, this chair has great responsibility of connecting not only the indigenous tribal systems to the mainstream, but also connecting the indigenous language, the indigenous youth to the mainstream of India, thereby providing greater illumination to Bharat on the global platform. I wish the chair a great success and great enrichment in coming years. Thank you.
आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर. बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दों पर आपने हमारा ध्यान खींचा है. आपको सुनने की जिज्ञासा बनी रहेगी. पुढले सुवाते कार्यक्रमाचे अध्यक्ष कुलगुरू आदरणीय प्रोफेसर हरिलाल बी मेनन हांका अध्यक्षीय भाषण करपाक हांव हांगा आमंत्रित करता.
Honorable Minister for Art and Culture, Dr. Ramesh Tawardkar, Professor Saumendra Mohan Patnaik, Professor of Eminence in this special or in this subject from Delhi University, KASHINATH family, members from the KASHINATH JALMI family, my dear colleagues from various schools, from institutions across the state of Goa, students, specifically Dr. Prakash told me that most of the students are from the tribal community, so I'm so happy to see that you're all present here, and in that respect, in fact, university's initiative to have a visiting VRPP chair under the Konkani tribal studies is fruitful. And at the outset, let me express the deep sense of gratitude to the minister for accepting our proposal, and then finally we have come to a stage for inauguration. In fact, today is not merely the inauguration of another academic chair. In fact, we have VRPP Visiting Research Professor Chair, wherein there are 10 chairs basically funded by Government of Goa in various disciplines. So it's a beginning of an intellectual journey to understand, to document and celebrate the rich heritage, knowledge system, culture and lived experiences of our tribal communities. In fact, this is a time to remember Dr. KASHINATH JALMI. The naming of this chair after Dr. KASHINATH JALMI gives the initiative a special meaning. A university is not only a place where knowledge is created, knowledge is disseminated, it's also a place where society remembers those who have contributed to its intellectual, cultural and social life. By associating with Dr. KASHINATH JALMI's name along with the chair, we are ensuring that his memory becomes part of the continuing academic life of our university. A chair becomes meaningful not because of the name written on his door, but because of the knowledge, scholarship and social transformation that emerge from it. I therefore hope that Dr. KASHINATH JALMI chair will become a living institution, one that carries forward a legacy while creating new knowledge for the future. Now, when I say tribal knowledge, it's a new knowledge. For a long time, academic institutions have looked at tribal communities primarily through the lens of anthropology. In fact, Professor is also head of anthropology department, as communities to be studied. So it was basically looked through the lens of anthropology for the community to study. But I believe that we must change that perspective. Rather, we must say that tribal communities are not merely subject of research, but they are repositories of knowledge. Their understanding of forest, medicinal plants, agriculture, water, biodiversity, climate, food, traditional architecture, community organization and sustainable living has evolved over generations. So which means that you must say that it's a repository of knowledge, and that has to be transmitted from there to the younger generation. Much of this knowledge has never been written in books. In fact, it exists in stories, it exists in songs and in rituals, and also it exists in memories of elders. So therefore, it exists in the relationship between a community and its forest, its river, its land and its seasons. And unfortunately, some of this knowledge is disappearing because it's not written in the form of documentation is not there. Therefore, one of the most important responsibilities of this chair should be to document knowledge before it disappears, while ensuring that the communities who have preserved that knowledge remain its rightful custodians. From studying communities to studying with communities. So it's not to study community, but study with the communities. And I would like this chair to follow a very important principle. That is, we should not merely study tribal communities, rather we should study with tribal communities. Research must be participatory. It is not like you have some books and then you are sitting in your office room and then again reading that and working on that, and on the basis of your thought process you write. Rather, you have to be in the field. The tribal elder should not simply be an interviewer. Rather, the traditional healer should not merely be a source of information. The artisan should not simply be photographed. Rather, the community should become a partner in knowledge creation. So you have to live with them. And this requires sensitivity, ethics, and respect for intellectual and cultural rights. Where traditional knowledge has commercial or scientific potential, questions of ownership, benefit sharing, and community consent must be addressed. And the university must ensure that research becomes a bridge between traditional knowledge and modern science, not an instrument for appropriating traditional knowledge. Now, Goa's special responsibility is that this initiative has particular relevance to Goa. Goa is known across the world for its natural beauty, cultural diversity and heritage, but the story of Goa is incomplete without the history and contributions of its tribal communities. Especially, I would say, the Humbi, Gauda, Velip and other indigenous communities have contributed immensely to the cultural landscape, agriculture, ecology, traditions and social fabric of Goa. Their knowledge of the Western Ghats, for example, and its ecosystem is particularly valuable at a time when the world is confronting climate change. So this is where we must acknowledge their contribution. Biodiversity loss. In fact, world is actually working on biodiversity now. Water insecurity and ecological degradation. In fact, if you see, modern science is asking many questions today that traditional societies have been addressing for centuries. For example, how do we live sustainably? UN has already come out with 17 sustainable goals. How do we use natural resources without destroying them? This is what they have been doing. How do communities conserve biodiversity? So they have been living along with the nature. And how do we build resilience against climate uncertainty? How do we preserve food security? Perhaps some answers are already present in our villages, forests and traditional knowledge systems. So our task is to listen and an interdisciplinary chair. As Professor rightly said that this should not be in one single discipline, rather it should be an interdisciplinary chair. I envision the Dr. KASHINATH JALMI chair as an interdisciplinary platform. Tribal studies cannot belong to one discipline alone. History can tell us where communities can come from. Anthropology can help us understand their social organization. And sociology can examine social transformation. Economics can study livelihoods. Environmental science can examine their relation with the ecosystem. And then medicine and biotechnology can investigate traditional health knowledge ethically and responsibly. And literature can preserve oral traditions. Music and performing arts can document cultural expressions. And computer science can create digital archives and knowledge repositories. Artificial intelligence can help preserve languages and oral histories. But technology must remain a servant to the community, but not as its replacement. Now, when you look at the visiting research professorship associated with the chair is equally important. We want scholars from India and abroad to come to Goa, spend time with our faculty, researchers and students, and engage deeply with the tribal communities. a visiting professor should not merely deliver a few lectures and leave. It should not be like that. Rather, I would like the chair to encourage a 3-month. I would request to Dr. Prakash, they should be here for 3 months or longer research engagement, field studies, joint publications, collaborative projects, student mentoring and international partnerships. So this is what we should envisage, and that really fits into what NEP 2020 says. The ultimate objective should be to create a network of scholars working on tribal knowledge and tribal development, with Goa University becoming an important center in that network. So documentation for future generation, when you say, I would particularly like to see the creation of a digital repository of Goa's tribal heritage. So you must ask yourself that Goa government is so generous that they are giving us fund, but in return, we must give the documents so that government also will be able to decide that what are the kind of development we have to do for the tribal community. Imagine a repository where a future generation can listen to the songs of an elderly tribal artist, see traditional agricultural practices, learn about indigenous medicinal plants, hear oral histories, understand traditional architecture, and study the language and folklore of communities. So therefore, what is today carried in the memory of one elderly person could tomorrow become part of the permanent intellectual heritage of Goa. So that should be the way. Therefore, the field trip has to be an integral part of this study. Technology gives us opportunity. But again, the principle must be clear. Digital preservation must go hand in hand with the community ownership and dignity. That has to be always there. From research to empowerment, when you say, ultimately the purpose of scholarship must be human development. The chair should therefore also examine contemporary challenges faced by tribal communities. For example, education, health, livelihood, employment, migration, land and forest rights, digital inclusion, women's empowerment, youth aspiration, and preservation of cultural identity. Our objective should not be to preserve tribal communities in a museum-like form. This is what I have seen in the past. It should not be like that. Rather, it should have the advantage as far as the community is concerned. Culture must be preserved, but communities must be empowered to move forward. A young tribal student should have access to the best education and technology in the world while remaining proud of his or her heritage. There is no contradiction between modernity and tradition. The real challenge is to create a future in which the two can coexist and with the dignity. So a message to our students is that I also hope this chair will give our students an opportunity to learn something that cannot be taught entirely inside a classroom. Sometimes the best classroom is a village. Sometimes the best textbook is the memory of an elder. Sometimes the most sophisticated laboratory is a forest ecosystem that has evolved over thousands of years. So sometimes the most important research question begins with simply asking someone that tell me your story. So therefore I hope our students will approach these communities not with an attitude of superiority but with a curiosity, humility and respect. Now finally, a fitting tribute is that let us therefore make Dr. KASHINATH JALMI Chair more than a memorial. Let it become a movement of knowledge. Let it bring together the university, tribal communities, government, civil society and scholars together, closer. Let it preserve what is disappearing. Let it discover what has remained unexplored. And let it challenge conventional ideas about what constitutes knowledge. And most importantly, let it ensure that the voices of our tribal communities are heard not merely by researchers, but by generations that will come after us. So I conclude with a simple thought that a society is truly educated not when it knows only when it is written in the books, but when it learns to recognize the wisdom that lives beyond the books. That's what is more important. So may the KASHINATH JALMI Chair for Tribal Studies become a beacon of that wisdom and may it generate scholarship to the highest quality, research of social relevance and partnership built on mutual respect. And may the name of Dr. KASHINATH JALMI live on not merely on a plaque but in the knowledge, lives and futures that this chair helps to transform. With these few words, I extend my warmest wishes for success to KASHINATH JALMI Chair and declare my full support, my university's full support. And again, once again, I thank both the minister and of course the Dr. Prakash who had come out with this idea. When he came to me, initially I said, yes, let us discuss about this, but later on I realized that was the need of the hour. And then I called him, personally I called him, I said that let us have this in the last meeting of ERBB chair. We went ahead with that, and then he also gave me a news that Honorable Minister has already sanctioned the amount. So with these few words, once again, I thank everyone. Let us see that each chair we constitute here, we establish here in the university, will have very good, impact on the next generation. Thank you so much.
थँक्यू सर. खूप महत्वाच्या अशा मुद्द्यांचेर तुम्ही भर घालात. फुडले सुवातेर मुखेल सोयरे